The Jerusalem Post reported that Hamas is promoting Donald Trump's deal of the century. For some time, Israel has been negotiating a ceasefire with Hamas. Are these things going on behind closed doors that the media is not telling us about? Well, the big split between Hamas and Fatah happened back in 2007. Now, prior to that time, Hamas, which has been ruling Gaza since that time, and Fatah, which has been ruling the West Bank since that time, they were together. However, a decision was made to have an election, and the election did not turn out quite like people anticipated. Hamas won an overwhelming victory. That meant that Hamas was in charge of the Palestinian parliament. However, that did not change the presidency. That means that Mahmoud Abbas continued to be president. Well, when Hamas saw the strength that they had at the polls and among the Palestinian people, they decided to hasten things by simply pushing Mahmoud Abbas out of the country. So he had to flee. I'm talking about the conflict happened about one day. He had to flee into the West Bank, where he has since that time been ruling over the West Bank Palestinians, but Hamas since that time has been in charge of Gaza. Now, it has normally been perceived that Hamas is the more radical and the more militant arm of the Palestinians. However, over the last year or so, there has been a shift because Hamas and Israel has been negotiating, attempting to achieve a ceasefire. We don't yet know how President Trump's deal of the century plans to solve this problem, but we're wondering if perhaps this is part of Donald Trump's peace plan. Now then, it's being reported by the Jerusalem Post that Hamas has been traveling around promoting Donald Trump's deal of the century, which Mahmoud Abbas has so far been adamantly against. So if in fact, well, let's go ahead and get to the article because I want you to see the details. This comes from the Jerusalem Post 2 days ago. In yet another sign of mounting tensions between the two rival parties, the Palestinian ruling Fatah faction on Monday accused Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh of promoting U.S. President Donald Trump's yet-to-be-announced plan for peace in the Middle East, also known as the deal of the century. A statement issued by Fatah's Information and Culture Commission claimed that Haniyeh's current tour of several countries was aimed at promoting the deal of the century and to solidify the project of a Palestinian state in the Gaza Strip. Haniyeh began his tour in early December by visiting Egypt, where he held talks with General Abbas Kamel, head of the Egyptian General Intelligence Service. Haniyeh later visited Turkey and Qatar and is slated to visit Russia and other countries, including Kuwait, Malaysia, and Mauritania in the coming weeks. Now, denouncing Hanukkah's tour as a conspiracy, Fatah accused the Hamas leader of seeking to engage with Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to pass the deal of the century in order to liquidate the Palestinian cause. Now, I suppose he's saying that if we would make peace with Israel, then our Palestinian cause is down the drain. However, if a peace deal could be achieved that was good for the Palestinians, why not? Unless the Palestinians don't believe they ever are to make peace with Israel, but they are just to continue to push and wear Israel down until finally Israel would be banished from the area. Nevertheless, there's a lot going on here that we don't know about yet. But one of the big problems in all the peace negotiations before this has been you can negotiate with the Palestinians, but until you get peace with Hamas in the Gaza Strip, you really don't have peace. Now then, all of a sudden, it looks like there's a shift taking place, and undoubtedly, if President Trump wants to solve all the problems, he'll have to work out a deal with Hamas and a deal with the Palestinians, if that's possible. Now, the latest news has been that Mahmoud Abbas is willing to have elections throughout the Palestinian territories, both the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And if these elections are held, then whoever wins, wins, and there would be one Palestinian nation once again. Well, it's going to be interesting.
About our trip, it was a wonderful experience. We totally enjoyed the time spent with other believers, worshiping and experiencing the places where Christ walked. One of our favorites was being on Mount Moriah, where the Holy of Holies are, the Dome of the Spirit. And the teachings that Brother Baxter did was so enlightening. It was so much to take in. It will take us another month or two to really grasp the full extent of the knowledge we received on this trip. Our tour guide in Israel was fantastic. He was very knowledgeable. I think God chose him just for us. Thanks, Jana. Our lives will never be the same. We will try to do this tour again. Mike and Julie L., Cayman Islands.
Join us May 1st through May 16th, 2020, for a trip to the wonderful land of Israel and the Holy Roman Empire reborn.
We've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Endtime Ministries continues to reveal the Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or online at our Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we continue to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. We will continue to see prophecy come to pass at an even swifter pace. We need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now. That's 800-363-8463. Go online now. Visit endtime.com.
Now, as we're examining the latest developments in the push for peace in the Middle East, let me remind you that we're not talking about just any issue. We're talking about what would be the greatest prophetic fulfillment in 2,000 years. When there is a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians, then the Bible teaches that that agreement will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the physical second coming of Jesus Christ to this earth. Now, I hope you caught that. This agreement will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the second coming of Jesus Christ to the earth. I mean the physical appearance and second coming of Jesus Christ to the earth. Well, when we realize how huge that is, And we see indicators that there are developments towards this peace agreement. It makes us excited. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is saying that if he is reelected as Prime Minister of Israel, that during his term, the final borders of Israel will be drawn and peace will be obtained with the Palestinians, and all of the Israelis will live under Israeli sovereignty. Many promises, and these are the things that must happen in order for this peace agreement to qualify for the fulfillment of the prophecy that will trigger the final 7 years. And that's the reason all of this is so exciting and also so important. Now, let me pause to ask you a question. If you knew the final 7 years would begin tomorrow, how would it affect you? What would you do? What would you do during the final 7 years? It's a question we all need to ask, because the odds appear to be quite high that that could in fact happen during 2020, the year we just now entered into. Okay. Now, according in the article, according to Fatah, that's Mahmoud Abbas's party, Hamas has since its establishment sought to present itself as an alternative to the PLO with the backing of the Israeli security services. Hanukkah does not represent the Palestinian people, the Fatah statement said, warning international and regional parties against dealing with the Hamas leader. Instead, he represents those who are conspiring against the Palestinian people. Palestinian sources in Ramallah claimed that the PA asked the Egyptian authorities to ban Hanukkah from leaving the Gaza Strip. The request, however, was turned down by the Egyptians, the sources said. PLO's Secretary General Saeb Erekat said that Hamas's fabrications are aimed at concealing its involvement in the fake projects to liquidate the Palestinian national enterprise. He also accused Hamas of working towards consolidating the split between the West Bank and the Gaza Strip in accordance with the deal of the century, Trump's peace plan. So they're accusing Hamas of pushing Trump's peace plan. It could get really interesting. Now, another article has just appeared, actually yesterday. Israel moving towards calm agreement with Hamas. Israel made progress toward a ceasefire agreement with Hamas in Gaza in a 2-hour meeting on Wednesday that ended without a vote. According to an Israeli security official, while most of the clauses in the agreement will benefit Palestinians living in the blockaded coastal enclave, that's talking about Hamas, and that's talking about the Gaza Strip, they are in line with Israeli security interests. Cabinet ministers and security officials have been calling the agreement a calm as opposed to an official truce, with sources in the meeting saying that it will likely be finalized. Pretty strong words. As part of the ceasefire moderated by the Egyptians, Israel will reportedly increase the number of entry permits for Gazans for trade, as well as widen the fishing zone off of the blockaded coastal enclave currently set at 14 nautical miles. Now, these are things that Hamas has been requesting for years. The article goes on to say infrastructure projects such as the construction of a natural gas pipeline and increased medical assistance and equipment for hospitals are also reported to be part of Israel's concessions. Now, I might pause to say that already many of the Palestinians go into Israel in order to get medical training. It states there, we discuss medicine, we don't discuss politics. Now, that's happening right now, but apparently this agreement will escalate this. There's even been some reports that a new hospital will be built on the border between Gaza and Israel. The ceasefire agreement does not require Hamas to return the remains of Lieutenant Hodder Golden and Sergeant Oren Shaw, which they have held since 2014, or Israeli civilian captives Avera Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed. Now, these are all people that have been captured by Hamas. The first couple is believed to be dead. Their bodies are being held there. These others are supposedly captured alive. Golden's parents accused the government of Israel of putting Hamas before Israeli civilians and soldiers in comments made ahead of the Security Cabinet's planned meeting about a possible ceasefire with the terrorist group on Wednesday afternoon. Now, they're accusing Israel of selling them out. But the truth of the matter is, if Israel gets a true peace agreement, if the Trump peace plan is implemented, undoubtedly all prisoners would be exchanged and they would get what they wanted. The shipments of fruit and the cream-topped chocolate-covered cookies were a part of a loosening of import and export limitations on Gaza earlier this week, which followed a Hamas announcement that they will stop the Great March of Return riots at the border with Israel for the next 3 months. Now, they've been having these riots once a week. They've been burning tires. They've been sending kites on fire over into Israel, setting their fields on fire. This has been going on now for how many years? Quite a while. Now they're saying none of that's going to happen the next 3 months, and could that moratorium become permanent? Israel allowed tires into Gaza this week for the first time in 2 years since the riots at the border began, as well as fishing boats, buses, and fertilizer, according to Gazan media reports. In a speech at the Interdisciplinary Center, Herzliya, last week, IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant Aviv Kochavi said that he recognizes a unique opportunity in Gaza and that one of the military's roles is to ensure that there are periods without war. I recognize a unique opportunity in Gaza. There is a strong will not to bring about an escalation of tensions on the part of Hamas. And it was Islamic Jihad under the leadership of its now dead commander, Baha Abu al-Atta, that were responsible for the vast majority of attacks on Israel in the past year. Hamas, he said, wants to improve the welfare of its citizens, and Israel is in the process of assisting the Egyptians, within which we will facilitate civilian relief. This is the policy of the Israeli government, and I support it. So everywhere we're turning now, we're seeing these reports that Hamas and Israel are on the brink of a peace agreement of some sort. Now, that will not be all the end of the story. You still have to deal with the West Bank. You still have to deal with the area of Judea, where the Palestinian state will be established according to even the prophecies of the Bible. And yet, sometimes you make these agreements one piece at a time. And that appears to be what is going on right now. Now, changing our focus just slightly, an article appeared in the Jerusalem Post 2 days ago, 40% more Jewish visitors to the Temple Mount compared to last Hanukkah. During the Hanukkah holiday, there was a 40% rise in the number of Jews visiting the Temple Mount, with 400 more visitors compared to last year. Ha Cohen, expressed admiration for the recent easing of restrictions on Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount and thanked police officers for their positive relationship with Jewish worshipers. Now, this is a big change because there was a time Jews could not go up on the Temple Mount at all. And then little by little, at first there was a small cluster, and then there was 50, and then 100, and then 1,000. Now, during this last year of 2019, they now went over the 30,000 mark. 30,000 Jews visited the Temple Mount this year. When you realize the number was 0 back in the year 2000, and here we are today, 2019, 30,000 Jews made their way onto the Temple Mount, and the Jewish police are relaxing their sentiments and their requirements, allowing the Jews to quietly pray as long as they do it discreetly. It's my understanding that every week on Tuesday, there is a Jewish leader that leads 10 men up to the Temple Mount, and they pull over to the side, and there they pray. The police know it, and they don't stop it. If you did that 1 year ago, you would be immediately arrested and hauled off to jail. But things are changing. I mean, I'm talking about 30,000 people in 1 year visiting the Temple Mount. They thought it was a big deal back in 2017 when 16,000 visitors visited. Well, here we are 2 years later, 30,000. Everything is escalating because the Jews are determined that they will worship on the place where they believe God said, I will put my name there. And they also are determined that they're going to build their third temple there. They're preparing for it. They have all the furniture. They have all the utensils. They are training the priests right now. They are preparing for it. It is going to happen. It's in the Bible that it's going to happen. And undoubtedly, under President Trump's peace plan, that will have to be built in, because Israel will never accept a final agreement that banishes them from the Temple Mount. So it's so interesting as we watch these pieces of the puzzle converge together. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I are watching prophetic fulfillment in front of our eyes, and 2020 could be the greatest year ever. It looks like to me the odds are quite high that President Trump's peace plan could be released and implemented. Now, he's already stated that once a permanent government is put in place in Israel, he's going to release his peace plan called Deal of the Century. Well, once he releases that plan, parts of it are already being bought into, and according to this, Hamas is already pushing the adoption of President Trump's peace plan, as is Saudi Arabia, as is Bahrain, as is United Arab Emirates, as is Jordan, as is Egypt. So we have all of these Arab countries, they're saying we need to accept this is a good plan that President Trump has come up with. Can you imagine if the Palestinians buy in and all those surrounding Arab countries, if they all say, yes, we're going to do this, and we end up getting a peace deal in the Middle East? What will 2020 look like? I mean, we're talking about Nobel Peace Prize given away, many other things. Now, the Hanukkah holiday commemorates the war between the Jewish Hasmoneans and the Hellenic rulers of the area, and the end of the war when the Jews entered the temple and re-sanctified the site. The temple had been desecrated. During the re-sanctification ceremonies, the Jews tried to light the menorah, which is a candelabra used in the temple service. But they only had enough oil for 1 day. However, someone was traveling to get more oil, and they didn't make it back for 8 days. The oil ended up lasting 8 nights. So it was only supposed to last 1 day. It lasted 8 days, and the Hanukkah lit on the the holiday, Hanukkah holiday, to this day commemorates the miracle. That's the reason some candelabras have 8 candlesticks instead of the 7. It's to remember the miracle that the Jews believe happened there that day. For oil designed for one day to last for 8 days, they believe it's a miracle, and that's the reason Hanukkah is called the Festival of Lights, and it's very near the Christmas holiday that Christians celebrate. Now, the word Hanukkah also refers to the ceremonies dedicating and sanctifying the temple. Well, now, this particular holiday, when they had a record number of Jews go up there on the day that the Jews celebrated the sanctifying of the temple, what are the Jews thinking? Are they anticipating it's not going to be long until we're going to rededicate this place and we're going to build our third temple here? That's what's going on. On Wednesday, the Jordanian Foreign Ministry condemned Israeli visits to the Temple Mount, referring to them as ongoing Israeli violations against the Al-Aqsa Mosque, according to Jordan's official news agency. The Jerusalem Post recently revealed that Jewish visitors to the site have started praying undisturbed by police forces. As of the end of December, police officers continued to allow Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount, according to the Jewish visitors to the site. What's it all mean? Ladies and gentlemen, you and I are in the end times right now. We're watching all the events that are supposed to occur converging together right now. The Bible explicitly prophesies in 2 different places that in the very near future, the Jewish people will build their third temple on the Temple Mount. I believe you and I will actually live to see that happen, and it could be within the next 2 or 3 years. We'll have to wait and see.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctors' offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
Another prophecy-fulfilling article was carried by the Jerusalem Post. It was entitled, "Germans, Trump is a greater danger to the world than Putin or North Korean leader Mr. Kim Jong-un." Now, this happened on December the 26th of 2019. Roughly 2,000 people in Germany were asked which world leader, in their view, is the greatest threat to the world. They were offered a choice between Kim Jong-un of North Korea, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei of Iran, and also U.S. President Donald Trump. The results were that 41% chose Trump as the greatest threat to the world today, more than leaders who starve their own people, as in North Korea. 17% voted that he was more of a danger, more than nations that shoot their own people in the head and legs during protests, such as recently has happened in Iran. The people of Germany only 8% of them believe that that's the biggest threat to the world. Now, Trump recently tweeted that despite all of the great success that our country has had over the last 3 years, a booming economy, lowest ever unemployment for blacks, for Asians, for women, it is harder for Trump to deal with foreign leaders when he has to always defend himself from Democrats and his ongoing impeachment process. It's rather amazing that people think Trump is more dangerous than Kim Jong-un or Ayatollah Khamenei, but they do. So what's going on here? Well, the Bible prophesies that America will not be allied with Europe, and Germany sits at the heart of Europe. We will not be aligned with Europe. The Antichrist will soon rule Europe, but America will not be involved. Rather, the Bible teaches that America is going to align itself with Israel and protect Israel against the world. So when we see that they think Trump is the greatest threat to world peace and to world order, we should not be surprised, because Donald Trump is adamantly against globalism. The powers of Europe, France, Germany, and the other powers of Europe are adamantly promoters of globalism and world government. So here we have globalism with Mr. Macron, with Angela Merkel, and here we have Trump, who is against globalism. Consequently, all of that feeds into the population of Europe, and they say, oh yeah, by far Donald Trump is the biggest threat to the world, and that's where we are right now. So interesting. Well, listen, we're going to get to the phones now. Let's go first of all to Christine, calling from Maryland. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Dr. Baxter. I have a quick question for you. I was reading about the beast, the animal beast in Revelation, and I understand, that Russia's the bear and the leopard is Germany. And then we come to the fowl, which I have heard you talk about as the rooster, which represents France. But I'd like to know if the wings of the rooster represent anything like the wings on the lion that represented the United States. So I'm going to go off and just listen to your wonderful answer, and thank you for taking my call.
Okay, well, thank you, Christine. Well, you know that we cannot understand the prophecy of Revelation 13 unless we first of all understand the prophecy of Daniel 7 in the Old Testament. And in Daniel 7 in the Old Testament, it depicts the wings of a fowl, 4 wings of a fowl on the back of the leopard. And as we've discussed a number of times here on this program, the wings of the fowl represent France, because the official symbol of France is the rooster. The rooster is a fowl. And the Franco-German alliance has rebuilt Europe since World War II. Now, you may be asking, well, what happens then to the wings of the fowl when you get to Revelation 13? I cannot answer that question. Either it's still there and just simply was not mentioned in the details of the vision, or something else has happened to France. I suspect that the wings of the fowl are still there. As adamant as Macron promotes world government, I think France is probably going to be an integral part of the world government. It just could be that because Germany, the leopard, is mentioned there, they don't re-mention the wings of the fowl. However, the absence of the eagle is much more significant. because America is not going to be a part of the one world governmental system that's depicted in Revelation 13, verse 1 and 2. Because one chapter prior to that, we have another prophecy about Satan and his agent, the Antichrist, trying to destroy Israel during what's called the Great Tribulation period. And it says in Revelation 12:14, but there will be given to the woman, the woman is depicted as having 12 stars around her head. The woman is Israel. The 12 stars are the 12 tribes of Israel. And the Bible says that when Satan comes down against Israel, it's going to be another Holocaust is what it's going to be. When Satan comes down against Israel, there will be given to the woman 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into her place where she will be nourished from the serpent and from the Antichrist for 3.5 years. So we know that in Revelation chapter number 12, America is depicted as Israel's friend, and the events of the last few years, especially since President Trump took office, have borne that out, because we went directly against the world government by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving our embassy there. In addition to that, we've now stated that the settlements are not necessarily an evil thing or an illegal thing, even though the United Nations has declared it illegal. So under the Trump administration, we've seen this great shift. Instead of moving toward globalism, as President Obama wanted to do, he liked to call it multilateralism. That meant that I believe in world government with all the nations of the world working together to run the world. He believed in one world government. Well, President Trump is adamant. He does not believe in world government. He does not believe in globalism, but he believes that all nations should retain their own sovereignty over their peoples. So the prophecies are coming to pass with incredible accuracy. It's so important for us to realize that. Well, as always, good question there, Christine. Let's go now to Stephanie, calling from New Jersey. Hello, Stephanie.
Hi, Dr. Baxter. First, let me just say that I thank God for you and your ministry.
Well, thank you very much.
Also, I am looking forward to taking a course in the Jerusalem Prophecy College.
Thank you.
My question today is concerning Babylon. Who is the Babylon of Revelation chapter 18?
Well, the key to understand that, Stephanie, is to realize that the Babylon of chapter 17 is the same Babylon of chapter 18. And you can tell that by some of the verses in chapter 17 talks about Babylon committing fornication with the kings of the earth. And then it turns right around and says in chapter 18 the same thing again. So the Babylon of chapter 17 and 18 is the same thing. Now here's the big key. In chapter 17, in verse number 3 or verse number 5, it states that on the forehead of the woman who is called Mystery Babylon, it says that her name is Mystery Babylon. Why Mystery Babylon? Because she is Babylon, but with a different name. She's not called Babylon, but she still has the spirit and the mission of Babylon. What was the mission of Babylon? Babylon began at the Tower of Babel, when the people said, in case there's another flood, let's build a tower to the heavens so we don't have to depend on God to tell us what to do to be saved. Instead, if there's another flood, we'll run up the tower and we can stay up there until the waters abate. So it was the origin of man-made religion. That was the original spirit of Babylon. But in the New Testament, it depicts Mystery Babylon as a woman. A woman in Bible prophecy is used to depict a church. The true church is called a virgin. False churches are called harlots. And if you read chapter 17, that's exactly what it states there. So there are 6 specific clues to the identity of Mystery Babylon in chapter 17. I won't give you all references, but in verse 18 it says, the woman is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Number one, this woman is a city. Verse 1, it says that she sits upon many waters. Verse 15 says, the waters which thou sawest, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So she's a city, but yet it's the headquarters for a vast international system. And then in verse number 3, it says that the beast on which she rides, it has 7 heads. It says in verse 9, the 7 heads where the harlot sitteth are 7 hills. Now, let me back up again. I want to make sure I say that clearly to you, that the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the city sitteth. There is one city in the world that is officially known as the city of 7 hills, and that is Rome. And so Rome is also the headquarters for a vast international organization. And it goes on to say that the woman was arrayed in red and purple. There are 2 ruling bodies of the Roman Church, the College of Cardinals and the College of Bishops and Archbishops. Cardinals always wear red, bishops and archbishops wear purple. So everything fits in line. If you would like to have a more detailed explanation, anybody out there, I've written a brochure called Why So Many Churches? And you can obtain that. I believe it's available on our website. If you go there to endtime.com, under the resources, you will find a lot of brochures there. One of them is Why So Many Churches? You can read it right there. It will explain in much more depth than I have explained here today. Also, if you would like a much more in-depth explanation, we have a DVD called True Christianity versus False Christianity. Now, that's a DVD I would encourage everybody. Of all the DVDs we've ever made, I believe this is number 1. Every person on earth should view True Christianity versus False Christianity. If you have never seen that DVD, well, it's the most important thing I believe we have ever produced. You can order it right now. Simply call us, 1-800-ENDTIME, 1-800-363-8463, or you can go to our website, and there among the store you will see True Christianity versus False Christianity. Very important question. Almighty God spent 2 chapters on the identity of Mystery Babylon. Chapter 17, chapter 18, and even 6 verses in chapter 19. So God took 2 full chapters out of the book of Revelation to address Mystery Babylon and the judgment of Mystery Babylon. The number to call once again, 800-ENDTIME.
Does the book of Revelation frighten you? Do its symbols confuse you? For centuries, the book of Revelation has been misunderstood and misinterpreted. In Revelation, the unveiling of Jesus Christ, Volume 1, Irvin Baxter unlocks the mystery of the book of Revelation with in-depth analysis and commentary like you've never heard before. This 10-part definitive DVD series and 268-page comprehensive commentary book covers the first 12 chapters of the book of Revelation, featuring on-location photography, classic artwork, and symbolic illustrations. You'll walk away with complete understanding and peace about the events happening during the final years on Earth. These comprehensive study tools, available for $299, will deepen your biblical understanding as you dig into the original intent of the book, answering the mysterious prophecies and symbols of the book of Revelation. Don't miss this special offer. Call now, 1-800-ENDTIME, or go to endtime.com to order. Call or go online now to get this comprehensive Bible study.
Oh, by the way, since we're talking about the book of Revelation, we just recently completed the first volume of our Revelation commentary. I recommend it to you highly. For the entire set, 10 animated DVDs with a gorgeous hardback, highly illustrated book. You get it all for your gift of $299. Now, if you would like to have only the book, then that's a gift of $50. And that's a high quality hardback book with beautiful illustrations of the highest quality. And it was written by myself. It is Revelation, the unveiling of Jesus Christ. But I really recommend you get the whole thing. It is gorgeous, nothing like it ever produced. And I'm sure there's some of our listeners out there, if they've got their book, I've already got them contacting me saying, hurry up and get volume number 2 done. Well, we are working on it. I've already done the first lesson. So remember me in your prayers. It's important that we get this done. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the phones now. And Robert is calling from Colorado. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Brother Irvin. Thanks for your program and taking calls. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
My question is about the persecution. We're seeing persecution of Christians globally. And while we do see it some places in the United States, it doesn't seem as, I guess not many people are talking about it. But my question would be, the difference between in the Revelation, in the book of Revelation, it says that the ones that, have the testimony of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, and keep the commandments. I personally think that there's more of a persecution on people keeping the commandments that also believe receive the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. Personally, I was attacked by police in my own hometown, in my house, and on police video, they say that this is a nasty family. They joined a cult, and then they attacked me just a minute later. I'm being physically attacked for absolutely no reason in my house. Now, we're not a cult. We simply believe in Jesus and keep the commandments, including the Sabbath, which, people that don't, per se, get into the whole Santa Claus aspect of Christmas, the deception, and there's all the mixture of the cultures, and that's kind of part of how I believe how the Lord has brought people into knowledge of Him, saying, look, I'm going to fulfill what your false deities you think we're going to, that's debatable, but the people that are outright against, the deceit and the paganization of the churches, and, that aren't at all, hostile toward people that are involved in that still, but I kind of see, my question to you would be, do you see more of a persecution in your level, because you might hear more reports than, I think a lot of them are under the rug. I mean, I can't even find help for the attack by police because I'm a Christian who keeps the commandments.
Well, listen, Robert, let me break in on you there. We are hearing many more reports of the persecution of Christians. A lot of those reports, of course, they became horrendous when ISIS was at the peak of its power. I mean, they were killing hundreds of them, and they were treating them in horrible, horrible ways. So, yes, we've seen over the last few years a great escalation of the persecution of Christians. Of course, one of the latest examples are the attacks that are being perpetrated against churches by a few of those that have happened right here in the United States over the last weekend. Plus, a lot of the Jews are being attacked as well. So there is a great escalation of the persecution of Christians. Now, it's going to get
persecution mainly on people that are keeping the commandments, or just people that are still kind of going by the Pope's commandments. And and that some people are, there's many good Christians that follow those rules and the paganization. I believe, I'm not the judge, thank God I'm not the judge, but you see more of a rise in the persecution of those that are standing up for the commandments, mainly the 10 Commandments and the commandment that completes it, which is love that Jesus gave us. So, I mean, do you see it on, on a level of, do you consider that they're going to be an exception to the paganization of Christian in the end times? and against the
Robert, what I
keepers?
believe is that true Christians that keep the Bible will be the ones that will come under persecution.
Well, none of us really do.
Hold on,
keep
Robert.
the full word.
Hold on a
None
minute.
of us really fully. We're all fallible, but it's.
Listen, Robert, I'm
Go ahead,
running out of
Brett.
time, so let me answer your question, all right? I do believe that people who keep the Bible, for example, a lot of people, including Pope Francis, like to call us fundamentalists. A fundamentalist is a person who takes the Bible literally and practices the Bible literally. He is very much against that. He believes that the Bible is a fluid document that changes over time. And he said this just very recently in one of his articles. So that will lead to the one world church, which will be a combination of a lot of Christians, both Catholic and Protestant. The Bible prophesies there's going to be a world church that will work hand in hand with the one world governmental system that's coming. But there's going to be Christians that will refuse to follow those paths of compromise, and they will go back to biblical Christianity, and those are the ones that are going to come under persecution. Now, hopefully, here in America, we will retain our Christian liberty, and so it will not come to us here. And it appears to me that that, in fact, is what's going to happen. But in the places, especially where the Antichrist obtains complete power, it's going to be a terrible place for Jews and true Christians to be, because there will be another Holocaust, actually. And so now I know that you are referring to the Sabbath. I believe all of us should keep all the commandments. I do not believe that you have to keep a particular day. I think you have to keep the true Sabbath, which is every day. The Bible says, with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, to whom he said, this is the rest, wherewith you may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing. Jesus commanded a man to pick up his bed and walk on the Sabbath day, which the Pharisees just went crazy about because he was breaking the Sabbath. The apostles picked corn on the Sabbath day. The Pharisees persecuted them. Now, apparently, the early church had church on Sunday. Now, I don't think it matters what day you have your church on. Matter of fact, the Bible says the apostles were daily in the temple. But in the book of Acts, it says they came together on the first day of the week. Why did they do that? Because Paul evangelized the synagogue on Saturday, because that's when the Jews worshiped, and then he would take his converts to the Christian church on Sunday to teach them the ways of Christianity. But whether you worship on Saturday or Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, you actually should worship every single day, because every day, once we are born again, then we keep the Sabbath 7 days a week, not 1 day a week. Well, listen, I got to let you go. I've got a whole bunch of people backed up behind you there, Robert. Thank you very much for the call. Now, Facebook, Luke wants to know, how will we have food and shelter if we refuse the mark of the beast? Well, if you listen to this program often, you know that it's my opinion that the mark of the beast will never be implemented here in America, because Donald Trump has pulled us out of the world governmental system, and we actually are going to be an enemy of the one world government, and we will protect Israel against the Antichrist and his world government plan. So I don't believe the mark of the beast is going to come to America, but any place where the Antichrist is in control, which will be much of the world, then they will live under the mark of the beast. And so the question is, how will they have food and shelter? Well, how did the Lord provide for the Jewish people for 40 years in the wilderness? He supernaturally provided for them. David said, I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. And so God is going to take care of his people regardless of how things come together. God is going to make a way. So it's going to be very interesting to see how God does that. I'm trying to get to everybody before we run out of time here. Let's go now to Shane calling from Alaska. Hello, Shane. Shane, are you with me? Okay, apparently Shane has left us. We have a Facebook caller, Ricardo.
Hello?
Wants to know, could the bombings this week in Syria and Iraq be the beginning of World War III? Yes, they certainly could. I'm not saying they are. We don't know that right now. But there's a lot of tension up and down the Euphrates River, and the Bible says that that's the area from which the Sixth Trumpet War will begin. Many times we refer to that as World War III. It certainly could be the beginning of that. Now then, let's go to Florida. And Alina is calling from Florida. Hello, Alina.
Hello. I have a question. I had heard from somebody else who is also on TV. I'm concerned about, let's say, my father who has not accepted Christ. When I go to heaven, am I gonna, if he does not and he goes the other way, will I remember him and miss him up there?
No, you will not have human sensibilities like you have now. You will have memory, but you will not think through your fleshly emotions, but you will look through the eyes of God. In one place, the Bible says that the people in heaven said to God, "You have given them blood to drink, and they are worthy." Now, I know that presently, I'm sure you love your father, and you don't want anything bad to happen to him, but once you're immortal, you will not have the same sensibilities that you have right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And the other thing I would say to you, Alina, is put that in the hands of God, because there will be a great white throne of judgment when all of these issues will be resolved by the God who is eminently just and who is eminently fair. So God will take care of all those people who were not born again Christians and who did not go up in the rapture. They will appear before the great white throne of judgment when they will be fairly judged according to a God who is eminently wise and eminently fair. Well, thank all of you for participating today. So here we are. We're in the middle of Israeli elections. They are campaigning hard in Israel. I hope you will pray that God's will be done concerning them. The elections will be held on March the 2nd. Prime Minister Netanyahu just filed a request for immunity from prosecution as long as he is a member of the government, and Israeli law does allow for that. He filed that, and the courts have now said they cannot overrule that, but they will wait until the election takes place before they deal with that and before his trial will be held. So a lot of interesting things still going on. I'm sure you can read about a lot of those things, but the election will be held on March the 2nd, exactly 2 months from today. It's going to be so interesting, because once an Israeli government is formed, then President Trump is going to release his peace plan. It's going to be so interesting to see how things develop over the next 2 months. God bless you all. Give us a call, 800 Endtime, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.